Hey everybody, it's Janette from Rutherford County Extension. Today I'm going to show you how to sew on a button. Now losing a button off of your shirt is a pretty common occurrence. So I'm going to show you how to solve that problem. This is a button off of a shirt and it's really small. So I got some larger examples to show you today on exactly how to sew on a button. The things that you're going to need are some sort of thread. Usually we want to match the same color of thread to the same color of the button so you can't see it. Today I'm going to do just the opposite. I'm going to use a different color thread so it's easy for you to see it. You're going to need some needles. They come in packs. Sometimes I went digging through our family junk drawer in the kitchen, and we had some mending kits that we just kind of picked up along the way over the years. These have needle and thread, and some of them even have extra buttons in them. So if you get in a jam, that's one way to do it. There's 3 different kinds of buttons. There are buttons that have only 2 holes. Some buttons have 4 holes, like this. And sometimes you get a button that looks like it doesn't have any hole at all, but when you turn it on its side, that's how you attach it. That bottom part is called the shank, and I'll show you exactly how to attach that kind. So the first thing we need to do is take our thread, and we're going to get a length of thread, usually about up to, if you're holding the end of the thread with your fingers, I'd go up like almost to your armpit. And then using your scissors, go ahead and cut that length. Now, threading a needle takes a little bit of practice. One end is the sharp end. That's what you're going to go through the fabric with. The other end is what they call the eye of the needle. And I know it's really difficult to see it in the video, but you need to get your thread through the eye of the needle. Might take more than one try. And after you do that, you're going to pull thread so your ends are even. And the way I like to tie this knot is after I have both ends even, is make a loop around my fingers and then tuck the tail in and pull the knot shut. That gives me an anchor. So when I pull that thread through the fabric, when the knot hits the fabric, it won't pop all the way through. So I'm going to start with my button with just 2 holes. If you lost a button on a shirt, you might have a raised area where it attached. That's perfect because it shows you exactly where your button needs to be. So the button and the hole line up on your shirt and it will work. In this example, I'm just going to pick a spot in the middle and I'm going to push my needle through my fabric, like, let me turn it this way for you, like so. And I'm going to put one hole of my button over top of my needle. Now, sewing a button on is a 2-handed job. So one hand needs to hold your button in place, and the other hand is going to do the sewing. You're going to pull your thread till that knot hits the back of the fabric. And on this side, you can see it's just going in one hole. So now we're going to go down into the other hole. You should have your needle and the place that you just, they should be pretty close together. They're going to be the same distance that the holes are on the front. And that's the idea, is you don't want your thread to be going all over your shirt. You just want it to be near, but not on top of. Now, I can see my knot. I'm going to go right next to my knot and make my second hole. And I can see my needle is coming up, and I'm going to make sure that that buttonhole and my needle go together and pull it tight. So you're going to go through this maybe 2, maybe 3 times because we're using up double thread here. So for every pass, you get 2 pieces of thread holding your needle, holding your button to your shirt. Okay, I've just done 3. So you finish on the back, Now we need to secure it so you don't lose your button. I'm going to go and take my needle and go underneath those passes of thread. I'm going to do it maybe 2 times, and then I'm going to tie a knot, just like I tied at the bottom of my thread before. So I'm going to take my fingers and just like you would, go around, make a loop, and I'm just holding it so my thread, that knot's going to be really close to my stitching. Now, I didn't do a very good job there because my knot's further away. So to solve that problem, I'm just going to take up the excess and go around a couple more times before I cut off. That takes care of it. And now I'm going to cut the thread close to my imaginary shirt. And that's how you would do 2-hole button. Now, 4-hole button is very similar, but yet it's a little bit different. You might think it has 4 holes, so we'll go up, down, up, down. It's actually more secure if you do it as an X. So same concept, getting a length of thread. This time I'm using white so you can see it on my black button. I'm going to go in from the back the first time. I'm going to go in 1 hole. I'm going to pick the exact diagonal opposite hole to go down, and I'll pull that tight so you can see. And now my up hole, it doesn't matter which one I pick. I just need to pick one that I haven't gone in yet. I'm going to come up here, pull my thread so it's tight, and go down the last remaining hole. Now, remember, 2 hands. So you're holding that button tight to your fabric while you're doing this. There's my X. I'm going to go ahead and do 1 more pass. I'm going to start now, 2nd pass. So I start where the knot is. Sometimes you put your needle in and all you hit is the back of the needle. Sometimes you have to kind of peek. Where is the hole? Okay, pull that tight. Go down in the opposite hole. Now I pick one that I haven't gone in yet, which would be, got a peek. All I'm hitting is the back of the button. Okay, now I'm coming up, and this will be my last stitch here. Once it's pulled tight, now my back looks like 2 lines. So I'm just going to take my thread and needle, and I have slid it under my fabric just a little bit to help secure it. And now I'll go around to make a knot, holding my knot down so it stays close. And I've got a little tail, so I'm going to take 1 more stitch into the fabric before I cut. Take my scissors and cut my tails. So there's a 4-hole button. Now we have 1 left. This is one that you might not see very often, if ever. This button that doesn't look like it has any holes, it has the shank. So same idea as what we have done with the other ones. Let me get my thread and my needle here. So because I can't see where I'm going to go up or down, I'm going to just randomly pick a spot in my fabric to sew this button on. You're going to turn it on its side and put it on your needle. So that's how you get the thread through. Let's see if I can show you that. So the knot is on this side, and this side has the thread coming through and the button with the shank. So now I'm going to go right down. You can see my button's attached. I'm going to go right down next to where I came up. And when I pull through, that's going to tighten my button. Oops, I just dropped my needle. So now that's tight to the fabric, but it's not secure because we've only gone through 1 time, and that would be a recipe for losing a button pretty easily. So we're going to do the exact same thing 1 more time. This time you can really bend that button over to see where you're going in and out of. And I came in, but I totally missed the hole. So I'm going to move my needle so it goes through the bottom of that shank, pulling it tight, and I'm going to go down right next to it. So that's got 4 passes of thread because my thread's doubled up. That's going to be enough for me, secure. So I'm going to take this and make a little knot. And I'm going to take my ends of my thread and just going to tuck them in where my stitching is, help make it secure, and cut it off right at the base of the fabric. And that's how you would sew a button on that has a shank. I hope you've had fun learning about how to sew buttons today. And I hope when somebody at your house says, hey, I lost a button, you'll go, I know how to fix that. Check out more information at your local 4-H office. Thanks.